All right, so get this. We've got this audio, right? And it's from Dubai, early 2025. Get this. It's this crypto enthusiast giving us their take on where the market's at, Bitcoin trends, even some AI predictions, the whole 9 yards. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it. It's like a time capsule, this audio. We get to see what the crypto world is like buzzing about on January 6th, 2025. Market data, sentiment, even like whispers of regulations and future trends.
Yeah, and the first thing that jumps out at me is this person says that the global crypto market cap is at $3.49 trillion. Trillion
Right.
with a T. And the
Wow.
overall sentiment, he says greed. I got to ask you, when you hear greed in the context of market sentiment, what comes to mind,
Yeah.
historically?
Ooh, that's a good question. Greed often signals a belief that prices are just going to keep climbing, right? Nobody wants to miss out. We've seen this before. Think back to the dot-com bubble or even the housing boom leading up to 2008. People pile in, driving prices up even further sometimes, like detached from any real value.
Mm.
That's FOMO, the fear of missing out, at its finest.
Right, a self-fulfilling prophecy until, well, it isn't.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This greed sentiment comes right after, a bunch of people pulled money out of Bitcoin ETFs, especially BlackRock's. That doesn't sound very greedy, does it?
It might seem that way, right? Like on the surface. But remember, investors, they have different game plans. Some might be cashing out after a price jump, taking profits off the table. Others might be doing this thing called tax loss harvesting, selling assets at a loss to offset capital gains taxes. It's a year-end maneuver.
Tax loss harvesting, for folks who aren't familiar with that, could you break that down just quickly?
Yeah, sure thing. It's basically strategically selling assets that have lost value to offset taxes on profits that you've made, like elsewhere. It's a way to reduce your tax burden, especially as the fiscal year, comes to a close.
So maybe some of that greed is just savvy tax planning in disguise.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bitcoin, our friend in Dubai says it's pushing close to $100,000. 100,000. I think we're seeing 100K Bitcoin is the new normal.
$100,000 per Bitcoin. It wouldn't be the first time that Bitcoin shattered price expectations, would it? But what's fascinating is our source points to 3 dates in January that could make or break Bitcoin's momentum. So mark your calendars.
Okay, give me the rundown. Dates and why they matter.
First up, January 15th. That's when the U.S. releases its Consumer Price Index data, CPI, basically tells us how much inflation we're dealing with. If inflation is down, could be a green light for Bitcoin.
Because investors will be looking for places to put their money, and Bitcoin might seem like a good bet if traditional assets are, yielding less due to low inflation.
Exactly. Then we have January 20th. President Donald Trump's second inauguration. Now, he's been a Bitcoin advocate, so his return to the White House could influence the regulatory landscape, maybe even in favor of crypto.
But wouldn't that depend on, specific policies being put in action? I mean, even with good intentions, things can, get bogged down.
Absolutely. It's all about watching how things unfold. And finally, we have January 29th, the Federal Open Market Committee, or FOMC, meeting. This is where the Fed decides on interest rates, and let me tell you, their decisions can send shockwaves through the market, crypto included.
Oh, yeah. The Fed. They can make or break a good day on Wall Street, for sure. What's interesting is that our source specifically calls out the media, how even quote-unquote fake news can create these wild price swings. It's almost like mass psychology at play, as much as economics.
You hit the nail on the head. Information, even if it's inaccurate, can have a real impact on how people buy and sell. That's why it's crucial to, do your own research and not just blindly follow every headline or social media post you see.
Absolutely. Think critically, folks. Okay,
Okay.
shifting gears a bit, let's talk stablecoins. Our Dubai insider mentioned some serious rumblings in this corner of the market. Tether, the big player, seems to be facing some headwinds.
Right. There's definitely a shift happening in the stablecoin landscape, largely driven by regulation. Remember, Micah, the EU's new set of rules for crypto assets went into effect at the end of 2024, and it's all about transparency and stability for stablecoins.
So more guardrails to make sure those stablecoins actually, stay stable.
Exactly. But this has put pressure on Tether, which has faced questions about its reserves in the past. And we're seeing exchanges like Coinbase Europe delisting Tether for European customers because of these regulatory concerns.
Wow, that's a big deal. And to add fuel to the fire, Tether's longtime general counsel even retired amidst all this. Sounds like things are getting, intense.
They are. And with Tether's market share potentially shrinking, the question becomes, Who's stepping up to fill the void?
Yeah, who's going to take the stablecoin crown? What are the contenders looking like?
Well, Circle's USDC has been steadily gaining ground, and then there's Ripple with its new RUSD stablecoin. Ripple's got a strong focus on regulatory compliance and a global network, which could give them an edge.
So it's a stablecoin showdown, eh? Who do you see coming out on top in this evolving landscape?
It's still early to say for sure, but Ripple seems to be positioning themselves strategically. They're aiming to be the stablecoin of choice in this new, more regulated world.
Interesting. Okay, we can't talk about the future without touching on artificial intelligence, can we? Our Dubai friend mentions this Cointelegraph article that caught his eye. Apparently they used AI models like ChatGPT and others to predict crypto prices and even create a portfolio. He called it wicked, which I gotta admit sounds pretty cool.
But are these AI predictions like the crystal ball we've been waiting for in the crypto world?
AI and machine learning are powerful tools, no doubt. They can analyze massive amounts of data and spot patterns that humans might miss, giving them, a potential edge in predicting price movements.
But is it foolproof? Not quite. AI models rely on historical data algorithms, and they can't predict, like those black swan events, things that catch everyone by surprise, like major regulatory changes, or, as we discussed, even the impact of fake news on market sentiment.
Right, so they're not like fortune tellers, more like sophisticated analysts with blind spots.
Precisely. AI predictions can be fascinating and insightful, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. You always have to do your own research, understand the limitations, and not put all your faith in algorithms, right?
Always a good reminder. Okay, let's zoom in on Dubai specifically. Our source mentions some intriguing initiatives happening there, both in crypto and AI. First up, bitcoindxb.org, a platform dedicated entirely to Bitcoin. What's the scoop?
From what we're hearing, bitcoindxb.org isn't just another exchange. They're aiming to be like a hub for Bitcoin education and community building. Think of it as a one-stop shop for all things Bitcoin, from the basics to the nitty-gritty technical stuff.
So they're targeting everyone, from newbies to hardcore Bitcoin geeks.
It seems so. They're planning content for beginners, people just starting their Bitcoin journey, advanced users who want to level up their knowledge, and even technical experts diving into the nuts and bolts of the technology. They're covering everything from basic concepts to complex topics like mining, the Lightning Network, and even ordinals.
Hold on, ordinals. That's ringing a bell, but I need a refresher.
Ordinals are a relatively new way to inscribe data onto individual satoshis, the smallest units of Bitcoin. It's a fascinating development that sparked a lot of debate in the Bitcoin community.
Okay, I'm vaguely remembering now. So they're covering the tech side, but what else?
They're going deep into Bitcoin governance, exploring how decisions are made in this decentralized ecosystem. And here's something particularly relevant in Dubai. They're dedicating a whole section to Sharia compliance.
Now that's an angle I hadn't considered. Explain that one for me. How does Sharia law, intersect with Bitcoin?
It's a growing area of discussion as Bitcoin gains traction in regions with, strong Islamic finance principles. There are questions about whether Bitcoin aligns with those principles, especially regarding things like interest and speculation. It's a complex topic, and bitcoindxb.org is aiming to, address it head on.
So they're tackling the tech, the regulations, and even the religious aspects, but who are they trying to reach with all this? It sounds pretty comprehensive.
Their target audience seems to be a mix of those who influence Bitcoin adoption, like politicians, regulators, high net worth individuals, lawyers, educational institutions, and even governments.
Whoa, they're aiming high. So it's not just about educating the average Joe. They're going straight to the people with the power.
Exactly. They want to foster a deep understanding of Bitcoin among those who can shape its integration into the existing financial and legal systems.
Smart strategy. Education is key to, breaking down barriers and driving mainstream adoption. But are they open to different perspectives, or is it just a Bitcoin echo chamber?
One thing that stood out is that they explicitly welcome diverse opinions, even from Bitcoin skeptics. They encourage healthy debate as long as it's grounded in facts.
So they're not afraid of a little constructive criticism. That's encouraging.
It is. They seem genuinely interested in fostering a balanced and informed discussion, which is, refreshing.
Okay, let's pivot now and talk about the other major initiative mentioned, the UAE's National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence 2031. They're clearly not shying away from ambition here. Give me the highlights. What's their vision for AI?
This strategy is all about making the UAE a global AI powerhouse by 2031. And they're not just focusing on developing the technology, they're thinking about the whole ecosystem, attracting talent, drawing in investment, and making sure that the development of AI is, ethical and responsible.
It's like they're building an AI-powered society from the ground up.
They're definitely thinking big. They're looking at how AI can, revolutionize sectors like healthcare, sustainability, even the way we design and manage cities.
Okay, I'm picturing AI doctors, self-driving cars, and cities that, run themselves. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does sound futuristic, but these are real possibilities, and the UAE is actively working towards them.
But it's not all about the tech, right? They're considering the human element, too.
Absolutely. A big part of their strategy involves developing talent. They want to attract and train a skilled workforce that's ready to take on these future-enabled jobs,
Yeah.
essentially building a new generation of AI professionals.
That makes sense. You can't have AI revolution without the people to build and manage it. But what about the ethical implications? AI is powerful stuff, and there are a lot of potential risks if it's not handled, responsibly.
You're right, and they're addressing that head on. Ethical considerations are a core part of their strategy. They're promoting responsible and transparent AI development, emphasizing data governance, and creating frameworks to ensure AI is used, safely and ethically.
So it's not just about building the most powerful AI, but also about using it for good.
That's exactly. It's about striking a balance between innovation and responsibility, which is, crucial for any technology, with the potential to reshape our world.
Well, it's clear they've put a lot of thought into this. It's impressive to see how Dubai is embracing both crypto and AI with such, strategic vision.
Indeed. They're pushing boundaries, challenging conventions, and charting a course for a future that's intertwined with these transformative technologies.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground from Dubai's grand plans to the potential of AI, but we haven't forgotten about the nitty-gritty of the crypto market itself. Our Dubai source gave us a glimpse into those trends, and he also flagged those 3 crucial dates in January.
Right. There's still much to explore. Those dates could be pivotal for Bitcoin, and we need to unpack what they might mean for the overall market.
And those AI predictions, those wicked forecasts, we'll dive into those too. Stay tuned, folks, because our deep dive into the crypto world of early 2025 is just getting started.
Welcome back. Before we get to those pivotal January dates and AI predictions, let's circle back to Dubai's crypto scene for a sec. You mentioned BitcoinDXB.org, a platform dedicated to, all things Bitcoin. What makes this platform, stand out from the crowd?
What really intrigued me was their laser focus on reaching specific groups. They're talking politicians, regulators, the big money folks, lawyers, universities, even entire governments. Why go straight to the top like that? What's the thinking there?
It's a bold strategy, isn't it? It seems their goal is to create a deeper understanding of Bitcoin among those who can really move the needle on adoption. They're aiming to influence how Bitcoin is integrated into the existing financial and legal systems.
So less about converting the average person on the street and more about winning over those who shape the rules of the game.
Exactly. And they're not just preaching to the Bitcoin choir either. They've made it clear they welcome diverse opinions, even criticism, as long as it's, backed up by facts.
So it's not an echo chamber for die-hard Bitcoin fans. They're open to healthy debate. That's refreshing to hear.
It is. They seem to understand that for Bitcoin to truly thrive, it needs to be scrutinized, debated, and understood from all angles.
Now, you mentioned they're planning to cover a wide range of topics, everything from Bitcoin mining to Sharia compliance. To those who might not be familiar, can you break down what Sharia compliance means in the context of Bitcoin?
Of course, Sharia compliance refers to adhering to Islamic principles and guidelines, particularly in finance. There are certain practices, like earning interest, that are prohibited under Sharia law. So the question becomes, how does Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and potential for speculation, fit into this framework? It's a complex topic with no easy answers, but it's incredibly relevant as Bitcoin adoption grows in regions like the Middle East.
It's fascinating to see these different worlds colliding. The cutting-edge technology of Bitcoin intersecting with centuries-old religious principles. It speaks to the broad reach of this technology.
Absolutely. And BitcoinDXB.org seems to recognize the importance of, addressing these diverse perspectives.
Now let's shift gears and talk about the UAE's grand vision for artificial intelligence. Their National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence 2031, it's ambitious, to say the least.
Ambitious is putting it mildly. It's a comprehensive plan to make the UAE a global leader in AI, not just by 2031, but for the decades to come.
So it's not just a sprint, it's a marathon. What are some of the key areas they're focusing on?
They're looking at AI, like across the board, healthcare, education, transportation, energy, even the way we design and manage cities. It's about using AI to enhance efficiency, solve problems, and create a more, sustainable future.
Let's get specific. What could this look like in everyday life? Give me like a real world example.
Imagine going to a hospital in the UAE in, 2031. You might interact with an AI-powered virtual assistant that guides you through the process, helping you schedule appointments and even, providing basic medical information. Your doctor might use AI-powered diagnostic tools that analyze your medical images with, incredible accuracy, leading to faster, more personalized treatment.
So AI taking on those like administrative tasks and even augmenting the doctor's expertise. That's pretty amazing.
And that's just healthcare. They're looking at using AI to optimize energy consumption in smart cities, personalize educational experiences for students, and even develop, autonomous transportation systems.
Driverless cars navigating the streets of Dubai, I can see it now. But it's not all about the technology itself, is it? They're also thinking about the people who will be like living and working in this AI-driven world.
Exactly. A key part of their strategy involves developing a skilled workforce for the AI age. They're investing in education and training programs to equip people with the skills they need to thrive in this new, landscape.
So they're not just building the robots, they're making sure people can work alongside them. But let's be honest, AI has a bit of a reputation problem. A lot of folks worry about the potential downsides, job displacement, algorithmic bias, even the whole robots taking over the world scenario, right?
Those concerns are valid, and the UAE is taking them seriously. A big part of their strategy is focused on ethical and responsible AI development. They're creating frameworks and guidelines to ensure AI is used for good, addressing issues like data privacy, algorithmic bias, and the potential impact on the workforce.
So it's not a case of move fast and break things, but rather like a thoughtful and balanced approach to AI integration.
Exactly. They're aiming for a future where AI enhances human capabilities, not, replaces them.
Nice.
They want to build trust and ensure AI benefits society as a whole.
It's impressive to see the level of like thought and planning that's gone into this. They're not just jumping on the AI bandwagon, they're trying to steer it in a positive direction.
They're recognizing that AI is not just like a technological tool, it's a force that will reshape our world. And they want to be at the forefront of that transformation, leading by example.
Now, before we move on, I have to ask about something that was briefly mentioned earlier, ordinals. I remember you said it's a relatively new development in the Bitcoin space. Can you give us a quick breakdown of what ordinals are and why they're, generating so much buzz?
Of course, imagine you have a giant ledger, and each page represents a Bitcoin. Now imagine you can inscribe a tiny piece of information, like a message or even an image, onto each individual line of that ledger. That's essentially what ordinals allow you to do.
Yeah.
They enable the inscription of data onto individual satoshis, the smallest units of Bitcoin.
So it's like carving a tiny message onto a grain of sand.
That's a great analogy. It's a fascinating development because it opens up new possibilities for what you can do with Bitcoin. Some people see it as a way to create like unique digital assets, while others worry about potential impacts on Bitcoin's scalability. It sparked a lot of debate in the community.
So ordinals are pushing the boundaries of what Bitcoin can do, but they're not without their, critics.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how Bitcoin continues to evolve and spark innovation even after all these years. And it highlights why platforms like bitcoindxb.org are so important. They provide a space to explore these new developments and, discuss their implications.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive so far, from Dubai's bold initiatives to the potential and challenges of AI. But let's not forget about those three crucial dates in January that our Dubai source highlighted. He seemed to think they could have a significant impact on the crypto market, particularly Bitcoin.
You're right, those dates could be pivotal. Let's revisit those and see what insights we can glean from them.
Sounds good. And those wicked AI predictions, we'll delve into those as well. Stay with us, folks. We're about to get into the heart of the crypto crystal ball. All right, so we've explored Dubai's ambitions in both crypto and AI. Talk about a city on the cutting edge, but let's not forget about those market trends and the three crucial dates. Our Dubai source flagged as potential game changers for Bitcoin. January is shaping up to be a roller coaster, huh?
It certainly seems that way. Our source pointed out that the market sentiment at the start of the year was greed. And remember, that can be a powerful force driving prices higher, but also like creating the conditions for a sharp correction. It's a classic boomer bust scenario.
Right, like a bubble waiting to pop, and then he just drops these 3 dates, almost like he's got a crystal ball or something. The first one was January 15th, the day the U.S. released its inflation data, that consumer price index, or CPI you mentioned earlier. Why was he so, like, fixated on this date?
Well, the CPI data gives us a snapshot of inflation, and it has a huge impact on what the Federal Reserve, the Fed, might do with interest rates. If inflation is running hot, they might raise rates to try and cool things down.
And higher interest rates usually mean bad news for riskier assets like Bitcoin, right?
That's the general thinking. Higher interest rates make it more expensive to borrow money, which can slow down economic growth, and investors might shift their money away from riskier assets like crypto and into more stable investments like bonds, which offer higher returns in a higher interest rate environment.
So our Dubai source was probably like hoping for low inflation numbers, which would, give the Fed room to keep interest rates steady or even lower them. That would be a good sign for Bitcoin.
Exactly. It's all about reading the tea leaves and trying to anticipate the Fed's next move. But here's the thing. Even if the CPI data comes in as expected, the market doesn't always react rationally. Remember we talked about how news and sentiment can drive price swings, sometimes even more than the underlying fundamentals?
Right, that whole fake news and mass psychology thing. It's almost like a game of poker where you're trying to read your opponent's minds as much as the cards in your hand.
It's a great analogy. And that brings us to the second date, January 20th, President Donald Trump's second inauguration. Now, this one is a bit more, uh, you know, speculative, isn't it?
Yeah, our source seemed to think this could be a positive development for Bitcoin. I guess the logic is that Trump has been a vocal Bitcoin supporter in the past, and his administration might be more inclined to create like crypto-friendly regulations.
That's one interpretation.
Yeah.
But as with any political prediction, there are a lot of ifs and buts. Even if Trump is, pro-Bitcoin, there's no guarantee that his administration will prioritize crypto regulation or that any proposed regulations will be favorable to the industry. It's a, wait and see situation.
Right. And even if they do introduce crypto-friendly regulations, it could take months or even years for them to be like implemented. It's a long game.
Absolutely. And don't forget, the regulatory landscape is constantly evolving, not just in the U.S., but around the world. What might seem like a positive development today could be overshadowed by, new regulations or enforcement actions tomorrow. It's a dynamic and often unpredictable environment.
Okay, so January 20th is a bit of a wild card. What about the third date, January 29th? That was the FOMC meeting, right?
Yes, the Federal Open Market Committee meeting, where the Fed announces its interest rate decision. This is always a closely watched event, but it takes on even greater significance in light of the, CPI data released earlier in the month. If inflation is higher than expected, the Fed might be more likely to raise rates, potentially putting downward pressure on Bitcoin.
So it's like a double whammy. First, the inflation data, then the Fed's reaction to that data. It's a lot for the market to digest in a short period of time.
It is.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, the market is also trying to process all the other, news and information swirling around regulatory developments, geopolitical events, technological advancements, not to mention all the speculation and hype on social media.
It's almost like trying to drink from a fire hose, isn't it? So much information coming at you so fast.
Exactly. And that's why it's crucial to have a clear strategy, do your own research, and manage your risk. Don't get caught up in the emotional roller coaster.
Sound advice. Okay, so we've covered the market trends and those three pivotal dates. Now let's talk about those wicked AI predictions that our Dubai friend mentioned. The idea of using like AI to predict the crypto market is fascinating, but is it really possible to, see the future even with the help of algorithms?
AI and machine learning are powerful tools, no doubt. They can sift through, mountains of data and identify patterns that humans might miss. But when it comes to predicting the future, there are limitations.
Give me an example.
Well, imagine an AI model trained on historical Bitcoin price data. It might be able to, identify certain trends and correlations, but it can't predict those black swan events, like a major government crackdown on crypto or a sudden technological breakthrough that disrupts the entire industry.
Right, those like unforeseen events that throw a wrench in the gears.
Exactly. And then there's the human element. AI models can't fully account for the irrationality and unpredictability of human behavior, which plays a huge role in the crypto market. Remember, we talked about how fear and greed can drive price swings, sometimes even more than the underlying fundamentals.
Right, the whole psychology of the market. So these AI predictions, they're more like educated guesses than like surefire bets.
That's a good way to put it. They can provide valuable insights and help us understand, potential trends, but they're not a crystal ball. It's important to use them as a tool, not a crutch.
Makes sense. Don't ditch your critical thinking skills just because an algorithm told you to buy Bitcoin, right?
Exactly. AI can be a valuable ally in navigating the complex world of crypto, but it's not a substitute for, human judgment and common sense.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the bustling crypto scene in Dubai to the potential and pitfalls of AI. It's clear that we're living in a time of like rapid change and unprecedented innovation. It's exciting, it's challenging, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
It's a time of immense opportunity for those who are willing to embrace the unknown, stay informed, and never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the crypto world of early 2025, as seen through the lens of our Dubai crypto enthusiasts. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling energized and ready to tackle whatever the future throws at
I
us.
too. It's a reminder that the world is constantly evolving and there's always something new to discover.
And who knows, maybe we'll check back in with our Dubai friend a year from now and see how his predictions played out. Until then, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep those deep dives coming.